We're picking up in the story here where the children of Israel were being held captive. They had fallen away from following God. They had fallen away from being obedient to God. They were worshiping idols, and their actions had brought chastisement of God. He had allowed them to be taken over by the land of Babylon, and they were being held as captives and slaves. And in the 29th chapter, verse number 14, listen to what God had to say to them. Verse number 14. And I will be found by you, saith the Lord, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places to which I have driven you, saith the Lord. And I will bring you again into the place from which I caused you to be carried away captive. He said, I'm going to deliver you from this captivity. I'm going to bring you out of this place of despair. I'm going to bring you out of this place of slavery. I'm going to bring you out of this space between a rock and a hard spot. I'm going to get you out of the mess that you're in. He said, I'm going to deliver you. You know, I think all of us here can, if we try just a little, we can probably relate to what the children of Israel are in. Well, no, we've not been held captive. We've not been put into slavery. But I think all of us at some point in time have found ourselves in a position that we wish we weren't in. We have found ourselves in a spot we wish we could get out of. We have found ourselves in a mess that we wished would get straightened out and cleaned out. You know, back some time ago, I bought one of those inversion tables. Do y'all know what that is? That's one of those things you stand on, and then you lock your feet to it. And then you lean back, and when you lean back, it turns and hangs you upside down. Okay? So we got it, and me and my wife, we got it out in the driveway. We put it together, and best we knew how, and I got up on it, and she locked them things down on my legs. And when I leaned back, Dave, let me tell you, that thing worked. Upside down I went. There I hung. The only problem was I couldn't get back up. And there I hung. And I thought to myself, Jody, I'm going to die just like the Apostle Peter, crucified upside down, hanging. I could not get, and what was even worse was that her response to the situation was just like y'all's. And I thought, the last thing I'm going to hear on this earth is my wife laughing at my death. We've all been in them situations where we wish we could get out of and we felt stuck and couldn't get out. Some of them's funny. I didn't think it was funny, but some of them, apparently some of you rude people think some of them's funny. But I think we all can relate to some of those situations and circumstances of life that we get caught in, we get trapped in, we feel as though we're cornered in. That isn't funny at all. I bet there's some here that have had that feeling when it has come to finances in their life. I'm in a bad spot, and it doesn't look like it's ever going to get better, and I don't know how to fix it, and I don't know how I'm going to improve it. I'm sure there's some here that have felt that way when it was with their marriage. The marriage is falling apart, and it's always a fight and an argument and trouble, and no matter what I try, what we do, how we try, it just doesn't seem to get any better. I'm sure there's some that here that have felt that way when it comes to depression and social anxieties. I'm sure there's some here that have felt that way when it comes to addictions in their life, and I just can't seem to get away from it. I can't make it better. Just like the children of Israel in Babylon, I'm just stuck here, and here I am. What do we do when we need a little help? What do we do when we're in those shoes And it just seems like nothing we do or can do is going to make it any better. I can't get out of this situation. Well, here with the children of Israel, God spoke through Jeremiah, and Jeremiah gave them what I believe to be some of the greatest instruction, some of the greatest advice. So if this shoe fits you this morning, you just put that sucker on and wear it, because we're going to look at what God told the children of Israel they needed to know while they were in the midst of their captivity. The first thing that God told them was this: it is absolutely essential that you know that there is an end in sight. Look at verse number 10. It says, "For thus saith the Lord, after 70 years are accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word toward you, in causing you to return even unto this place." Boy, isn't it easy when you're in those situations to so often feel like there is absolutely no end in sight. I call it the diaper syndrome. You got a baby in diapers, you feel like that's never going to end, don't you? It's just, I'm going to change diapers the rest of my life. It's never going to end, when it does. God told the children of Israel, you need to understand that I already know when the end is in sight. You need to know that. You need to absolutely understand that God, no matter what you're going through, no matter how deep in the valley you may seem, no matter how endless that road may appear before you, God already has prepared an end of that thing. What's amazing is so many times how God ends the thing is such a surprise. It's amazing how God very rarely ever does anything the way you think that He would. I think He likes, like any parent with their kid, to see the shock and awe and amazement on His children's face. It's kind of like the day the lady come running out of the doctor's office, and she come running down the hall and bawling and crying uncontrollably, and just a few feet behind her was a nurse chasing her with a clipboard, and they went into a room, and in a few minutes the nurse come back out, and she marched up there and slammed the clipboard down in front of the doctor and looked at him and said, "Doctor, how dare you? How dare you tell Mrs. Smith that she's pregnant? She is 59 years old, has 4 grown children, 2 grandchildren. How dare you tell her?" The doctor never looked up at the nurse and said, "Yeah, but does she still have the hiccups?" So many times, God resolves the situation that you're in differently than what you ever thought He would. That's exactly what happened with the children of Israel. No doubt they probably thought to themselves, when that 70 years is up, we'll have a warrior rise up, and we'll have a rebellion, and we'll overtake the Babylonians, and we'll take their kingdom, and we'll be this and that. And that wasn't what God done at all. In fact, what He done is He raised up another country, the Persians. And under the Persians, they had a king by the name of Cyrus, and Cyrus overtook Babylon and then came to the Jews and said, "Hey, if you want to go home, go home." Now, here's why all this is so important. If you get keyholed in to how you think God is going to fix it, you're going to miss what God is doing. If you get into a point of life where you're convinced there's no end in sight, we'll never see this change, I'm going to change diapers the rest of my life, my wife and I are going to fight the rest of our life, I'm going to be in financial distress the rest of my life, I'm going to be in depression the rest of my life, I'm going to deal with addiction the rest of my life. If you don't understand, know, and believe that God has an end in sight, you might miss it when He brings it. So the first thing to know this morning, if you can relate, perhaps you're sitting right here today feeling as though you are entrapped and closed, you are handcuffed to something. You need to know God says, I already have an end in sight. So whatever you do, don't quit. Whatever you do, don't give in. Whatever you do, hold on. Don't throw in the towel, because God has a plan to deliver you from it. Second thing, he says, first, know that there is an end in sight. The second thing that God tells them through Jeremiah is you must believe that God is for you, not against you. You have to believe this and know this. Look what he says in verse 11. He says, for I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord. Get this. Here's his thoughts. Thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. You know, you will never see God's way out if you're living in a state of mind like so many of the times we get, that is that God is against you. That God is a tyrant sitting on a throne. He's sitting up there holding lightning bolts, waiting for you to cross the line so he can zap you and knock you down. That is not who God is. That is not how God feels. He said, you need to know my thoughts that I have towards you. They are thoughts of peace, not evil. They are thoughts of bringing you to an expected end, not dragging you further through it. And he said it is imperative that you understand and know that God is for you, not against you. You know, sometimes I think we get into these spots and we have a hard time believing that God's desire is to deliver you from what you're in. And I think the reason we have a hard time believing that, and I'm speaking for myself, assuming that it fits more than just me, is we feel that way because we look back and we realize the reason I'm in the mess that I'm in is because of me. I did this to myself. I led myself into this captivity. I led myself into this mess. I led myself into this addiction. I led myself into this anxiety. And we feel to ourselves, because it's our fault, that God takes a hands-off approach. Friend, that just simply isn't true. You see, the children of Israel were exactly where they were because of their own doings. They were there because they decided to turn from God. They were there because they decided to worship idols instead of God. They were there because they chose sin over the Savior. And yet God still said, I want you to know my thoughts towards you. That they are thoughts of peace, not evil. Still thoughts of how to deliver you, not continue you in it. The other day, Hud called me. Little Tucker came in the living room. He said, Dad, look at this. He held out his hand, and it was absolutely, Hud said it was just coated in hand sanitizer. He said, just dripping. Hud looked at him and said, son, what in the world are you doing? He said, Dad, you see that? And he said, yeah. And he said, I'm going to light it on fire. Hud said, at that moment, I had a choice. So he said, I decided to be a responsible parent, and I asked him, did he need a lighter? To which Tucker replied, no, I got one. And he took that lighter, and he struck it, And Hud said, it was the most impressive thing I've ever seen. He said, fire went to the ceiling, burned his hand, blisters, bubbles, had to take him to the doctor and all that. And I said, Hud, why in the world did you let him do that? And he said, Jeremy, because I've learned that some of the most painful lessons I've had in life are the ones that I learned the best. He said, I don't know what I'll have to deal with Tucker anymore, but I won't have to deal with him setting his hand on fire ever again. You see, sometimes we end up burnt. Sometimes we end up in a bad spot. Sometimes we end up in a mess. And yes, it's because of our doings. And yes, God has allowed that to happen so that He might teach us, grow us. But His absolute desire is to get you out of that as quickly as possible because He loves you like a father. God says, when you're in that mess, number one, don't give up. Don't quit. Don't go off the rails because I already have an end in sight. So when you're in that mess, when you're in that spot of being held uncomfortable, you're hanging upside down and everybody's laughing at you. Y'all hurt my feelings. He said, remember, God is for you, not against you. He desires you to be in a good place. And then he says lastly, when you find yourself in those shoes and in that place, you absolutely must realize that God can be found again. That God can be found again. Look at verse 12. He says, then shall ye call upon me, and you shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And you shall seek me and find me, when you shall search for me with all your heart. 911 operator answered the phone. 911, what's your emergency? Silence. She said, is anybody there? And said, finally she heard this little voice whisper. A little boy said, yes. She said, what's your name? He said, Johnny. She said, Johnny, do you have an emergency? Yes. Well, is anybody there with you? Yes. Who's there? Mom. Can I speak to her? No. Well, why not? She's busy. Well, what's she doing? Talking to the cops. She said, well, can I talk to the cops? No. Well, why not? They're busy. Well, what are they busy doing? Talking to the firemen. Can I talk to the firemen? No. Why not? They're busy. What are they doing? Said, looking for me. Is it just me? Have you ever been in a spot in life where you feel like you and God are playing hide and go seek and God is the master champion? Oh, troubles and problems, and you wonder why God isn't showing up. Why hadn't God fixed this? Why hadn't God delivered you from that? Why hadn't God moved this mountain? God, why hadn't you taken care of these enemies? God, why hadn't you fixed this? God, where in the world are you? Maybe, just maybe, the reason we have trouble finding God sometimes is because we're not following God's instructions. He said, when you come unto me and pray unto me, I will hearken unto you. When you search for me with all your heart, you'll find me. You see, I am a master at being in one of those situations, circumstances, or problems. And after I've used all of my wisdom, after I've used all of my ability, After I've used all my manipulation and cunningness and good looks and all those things, then and only then do I remember, oh yeah, I should seek God with all my heart. Oh, how easily we fall into that rut of when a problem comes up, we try to figure out what the solution is. When we get caught in a spot, we try to figure out the best way out. We work and we strive and we do all these things to try to figure out, how do I fix this problem? What do I do and all this? And God said, listen to me. Come unto me. Pray unto me. Search me with all your heart and you will find me. You see, what it comes down to is whether or not we truly believe and trust that God and only God is the answer. God told the children of Israel, He said, listen, I've already planned an end. I already know when the end's coming. I want you to know I'm here for you. I'm not against you. I'm for you. I'm just waiting on you to search for me with all your heart. He said, when you search for me with all your heart, then you will find me, and I will deliver you back to where you need to be.